Welcome to the Journey to Happy podcast, a podcast dedicated to help you in your journey to a happier you. How? By teaching you concrete tools and giving you examples of real women who have left behind the overthinking, the self doubt, and the anxiety to land into a calmer, more confident self. I am Olga, a former therapist, a life coach, a wife, blissfully a mother, a coffee lover, and your host. I'm excited that you have tuned into the podcast, and I cannot wait to see where you take this advice that we come to give you on a weekly basis into your own personal life. See you inside. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Journey to Happy. I am Olga, your host, and today I am excited to be sharing with you this episode with a good friend of mine whose name is Caitlin Denning. She is a coach like myself, but she coaches specifically working mom. Raise your hand if you think a working mom needs a coach and all the help that she can get. Well, Caitlin is that person. She has the back of busy moms who are trying to balance things out. I am a loyal follower of her Instagram, which, by the way, you guys should all check out, and it will be in the show notes. So just make sure that you go and check those out. And one of her master classes last month really spoke to me because not only have I done this myself to no success, but also I've coached women out of this. And I just thought it would be a great conversation to have with Caitlin here in the podcast so that you guys get to hear how we handle this. Her master class was about keeping tallies with your husband. Raise your hand if you've ever kept little tabs here. I've done this. What have you done? That became a thing for me after becoming a mom. Before that, it wasn't so prevalent, I don't feel, but after that, it just felt like everything was on my shoulders just because this baby needed me and not dad. And so anything else that I was doing extra felt really, really heavy. So this podcast is all about how do we keep the balance between motherhood and our marriage. And not just the balance, but how can we succeed at both, keeping our relationship with our husbands really strong while also we're enjoying being moms and taking care of ourselves, because deep inside we're still children and we need to be taken care of with the same amount of love and patience. With all of that, Caitlin, welcome to the podcast. I'm really honored that on a whim I invited you and you're like, yeah, I'm in. So thank you.
I am so excited to be here. And I just feel like I love talking with you. We know each other, outside of our professional lives too. And feel like you bring out the best in me. So I can't wait to talk about keeping score and like sharing all the details. I think this is one of those topics that I don't know if I want to say dirty little secret, but like so many of us do it. And yet we don't want to talk about it because it's like shameful that we actually do it. So I do it. I was raising my hand, like, let's talk about it.
Oh my God, we can talk about shame for forever. You just made my mind go to a million places all at once. I'm like, yes, that'll be great to talk about. So why don't we start with you personally? Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, how long have you been married, how many children you have.
Oh man. Okay. I got to remember my dates here. So I'm actually coming up on my 10-year wedding anniversary in just a couple of months.
Wow.
I have no idea how we're going to celebrate that in the middle of a pandemic, but I'll figure that out. But we've been together a long time, almost 15 years. I have 3 children. We have 3 children, my husband and I, ages 6, 4, and 2. And I work full time. He works full time. My kids are in a combo of daycare and school. We've tried all the things over the years. As you said before, I coach busy working moms. So I, like a lot of women that I know who have done coaching, I stepped into a gap that I felt like was there in terms of what I was really looking for when I went back to work as a full-time working mom. When my son was 3 months old, I had a 12-week maternity leave here in the States and just struggled to figure out who I was, how I could get back to being my old self, like this person who really valued her career and was so busy doing all the things. And then now trying to add in motherhood on top of that. And I think what you said in the intro, Olga, was so interesting because I had written the same thing down, that the idea of like keeping score and who's doing how much I think really got amplified as well for me after I became a mom. And I was trying to think of why. And it's almost like before kids, maybe I just did everything out of love. Like I was so, you're so into your spouse and it's just the two of you. And the workload of keeping a household for two, independent adults is manageable. Mm-hmm. And then somehow you layer on motherhood. And I think that's a great point too. I nursed my children, pumped, that first year they needed me a lot more in some ways than they needed my husband. And it just felt like this is not fair. And the scorekeeping just kind of snowballed from there.
That was my conclusion. You know me, and my listeners by now know that I am a deep reflection person. I reflect the crap out of everything. Anything that you bring forward, my brain is going to go to reflection. First of all, I also hated my husband after giving birth. For some reason, he was my target of, I don't like you, and he couldn't do anything right. Nothing was. So not only did I want him to do more, I also wanted him to do it exactly how it was in my head that I hadn't yet expressed in words to anybody. So needless to say, I was frustrated. If you add the lack of sleep, I realized in one of those moments of frustration, my answer to why was I so preoccupied with the comparison of who's doing what is because I was drained. And before having my son, I had never been drained to that level of somebody needing you. Like physically, they need you. Our children without their mom and food and soothing, just they don't survive. So you have to be on 24/7. Also, I would hear the smallest of sounds of this baby. So I would be up all night. I'm sure my husband would like to help, but he just wouldn't even hear that. Or he wouldn't understand why Mateo was crying. Whereas I was like, obviously he's bored. Or no, he's hungry. He's definitely got a dirty diaper. Like I just knew things intuitively, so it will save time. But I do feel that it might have to do with the fact that somebody needs us 24/7. There is no escape. And then we just would love for somebody else to take care of everything else. I don't know what you think, but I feel that deep inside the keeping score, there is a wanting to not have anything for you to do. Like somebody else is doing it all. And you're just like,
yeah,
back to princess life. I like this. Somebody else is for me.
It's interesting. I want to kind of go back to what you just said, because I think a lot of women assume, well, I don't know if that's the right way to put it or not, but basically you jump to the conclusion that when you're keeping score and you're thinking about who changed the last dirty diaper, who got up the last time in the middle of the night, or it's not my turn to put him down for a nap, or all the things, anything. I think it's easy to jump to the idea that what you actually want is your husband or your partner, your spouse, insert whatever, is relevant for you, should be the one. You want them to change the diaper. You want them to get up. You want them to fold the next load of laundry. And sometimes, yeah, that's the case. Like I for sure want an even Steven split of diaper changes. I don't enjoy changing a toddler's diaper, but I think sometimes you keep score, but really you want something else. So like you said, you want just some time to yourself, or you want someone to say thank you for always putting my clean clothes away in the closet without being asked, or you want somebody else to take the initiative and notice that, oh, hey, the dishwasher is clean and needs to be unloaded. I don't want to have to remind you. So I think that's a really important distinction, and something that I coach my clients on when they have gotten into this habit, which I think it is a habit.
I agree.
Of keeping score. It's like, okay, what do you actually want? Like, I don't actually want my husband to do the laundry. I like doing the laundry. I want it done my way, and I don't want to give up that control. And so I'm choosing that. But when I start to catch myself like, I'm always doing the laundry and I'm stuck back here under 5 loads with all these kids, what I actually want is like some recognition. Like that's a lot of work. So it's like figure out what it is that you actually want before you go make the ask, or you have the tough conversation, or you say, this is not working for me.
You brought me back to another concept I was discussing recently with a client of mine. For some reason, especially in North America, I think this is a more prevalent mindset for the women in the home, which is this 50-50. Everything has to be fair and everything has to add up to 100 and everybody's doing exactly their half. Maybe because I'm South American, maybe because I do the level of work and introspection that I do, I see it as 100 and 100. That percentage of what we add into a relationship doesn't have to be on the same task or the same things that we're doing. So I think that that mindset shift is important to make. Feel, and I don't know what you, so happy to have this conversation with you, especially if you disagree. But I feel that when we're so preoccupied with fairness and what's fair, we then get on to these conversations that bring us to maybe changing the history between men and women and our community and our society that are such a huge undertake, and they're still not solving your immediate emotional problem. And so, a more helpful way, at least that's how I view it for myself, to look into what's feeling unfair, like what of my needs are not being met, and what can I do to meet them, and how am I doing things? How am I connecting my intention to the things I'm doing within my marriage and my household so that they come from a place of desire and wanting? This is my role in this house, and I love being the heart of my home versus I'm doing this because I'm hoping that then he does this one other thing, but I've never communicated this. So I don't know what your thoughts are on this 50-50, because I know you were brought up and raised in North America. So maybe we differ on this. I don't feel that things need to be that exact 50-50
Yeah.
in marriage.
That's so interesting. And I feel called out right now because I do. I default to like the total must equal 100. And it was interesting in the class that I did a couple months back, I did ask the women even to that point, like what's the split right now? 50-50, 60-40, 80-20. And then what's the dream? And I think there was only one woman who I want 50-50. There were several who were like, I just want 60-40 because right now I'm at 80-20. And then there was only one woman who said, I want 40-60. Like I want him to be doing more than me. But we all went right to that.
It's gotta add up to 100. Yeah.
Yeah, but what you said though makes sense because I remember one of my husband and I's good friends, mutual friend, is not a parent himself. And so he's always giving this different perspective. And he said, you guys seem like frustrated with the level of responsibility because it's just more than you've ever had to do before. Yeah. Like you're both tired, you're both doing so much. And that I think goes to support what you're saying. It's like whether the task itself is even between the two of you or you're each doing your own things to contribute. So that's such an interesting point. I mean, a good point.
Yeah, like I do think that we get lost in these percentages because we think that then we're holding on to something that is concrete enough to just be like, okay, but how do you get out of scores then? If that continues to like, then you're not thinking any differently than I'm here. What are you doing in this household? For example, my husband and I are both entrepreneurs. We less so now because of the type of work that my husband is doing, but we get paid based on the work we do, hours put into the work we do. In our mind, we want to work as much as we can because that means we're getting paid. And if we were to take a year off, that means we're not getting paid for a year. We value, obviously, our working hours. And we know as entrepreneurs, we've got to be flexible. Especially my husband has a couple of businesses and some of them are like, doesn't matter that it's the weekend. He's just got to put on hours. This morning, he was up at 6 a.m. doing a demolition in one of our sites. That's just the nature of our jobs. So we tend to be flexible, but I've caught myself in conversations with Chris where I'm like, but I'm tired. I work all day. And he would say, your job is talking to people. My job is doing this. And I'm like, okay, where is this conversation going? Each of us feels like we're at our 100%. Like I've done enough. I can't do anymore. And so these remarks to compare who's done more just makes us each feel like not validated. Like the work that I'm doing is not valid. If you're staying home, for example, that's job that if you were to be paying somebody, it would be a couple $1,000s a month, right? If you had daycare, if you had a cleaner, if you had like housekeeper, I don't know, whatever things that you actually do. If you were to hire somebody, that's on work that is you're doing that is saving the household money. So we can get into this really messy conversations of who's contributing what and how versus just I opt to going into very understanding. I'm saying this because I'm exhausted.
Right.
And he's saying that because he's equally exhausted, like what your friend was saying. You're frustrated at the level of responsibility. Yeah, who is not? Like parenting is like never ending job. You don't have a, oh, it's 5 o'clock, guys, I'm out, clocking
Yeah.
out of parenting. It's never ending, which is why I think it's important to find coping mechanisms
Mm,
with that balance. It's great when you can do this in partnership. There's a single parents who don't even have another person to bounce this with. And
yeah.
so if you are in a partnership, how do you make it feel like a partnership and like a team? We talk in my household, we talk about the team.
Yeah.
Like we're teammates. And so
Yeah.
you might have to do things that is not your role to do on a regular basis, but from time to time, you're a teammate and you just do that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so can we talk for a second though about what you were just saying about the conversation, right? When you if you think about scores, if you think about percentages needing to add up to 100 and you go to your partner to have a conversation from that place of I'm doing so much more or I'm exhausted, I can't, I need a break, all of that. I'm thinking a lot about parenting a toddler right now because my 2-year-old is going through the like terrible twos. And I think back to I read, the classic parenting book, How to Talk So Your Kids Will Listen.
Yeah.
And I think about, okay, when you go into a conversation about needing a break or being exhausted after a long day from a keeping score mentality, the only thing your partner hears is, like you said, I'm not doing enough. I suck as a dad. I'm not around enough. Like you do so much, you're so much better than me. They just feel attacked, like the victim in that conversation. And I'm laughing because I'm like, yeah, I can remember a number of those conversations. And how did they end up? Like nothing really changed other than you had an argument about how bad you feel because you're exhausted and you're doing so much. And when I think about that book and How to Talk So Your Kids Will Listen, you go first, like you said, of like being curious. How do we collaborate? I know that what I'm actually asking for is a break or some time to myself or some recognition for what I'm doing. I want to go into the conversation recognizing that he's also tired, that he's also working a lot, that he also doesn't want to change a diaper as much as I don't want to change a diaper or whatever it is. And when I go in like that, like we're both tired, we both have a lot on our plates, here's what I need, what do you need, then it's like you said, we're a team. How do we support each other? How do we create a home that works?
Yeah.
Because really you just want to feel better, right? It's the chores, the responsibilities, the division of labor in the home is like secondary to, I think, the ultimate goal is you just want to feel better.
Yeah. And I think so much of those arguments that we end up accidentally getting into with our partners drain our energy even more.
Yes.
Like I'm fully aware of what that does to me and to him. And it's a habit. And so it's important to just recognize overall, I'm trying to preserve my energy. I want more energy. I don't want less energy. So let's be really mindful of the habits we kind of have gotten victim of that are not helping our scenario, even though you feel like this is me using my voice. This is me being a feminist and saying like, this isn't 50-50
Yes.
right here. And we are in like 21st century and it should be this way. Like I have personally done a huge recall of all of the beliefs I have that are not helping me in my marriage. I'm sorry if it feels heavier for him or for me, if it's in the end bringing more conversations that go nowhere. I don't want to have those conversations.
Mm,
I need to vent. Like
yeah.
venting, it's such a waste of time. I'd rather be very concrete and tell my husband, I need this. How do we make it happen? Personally, my husband has no issue saying exactly what he needs. And I used to resent that. I'm like, of course you need something. Like, what do you need? Versus now I'm like, oh, it's so easy. You make it so easy for me. I know exactly what you need. So we can kind of plan, like, how do you need that? And then he's teaching me how to verbalize my needs unapologetically. Just this is what I need. And so how do we make it happen? Which is
Mm,
so much better for this team effort, I feel. I
yeah.
by no means master this. I still lose my mind. I still see my nature wanting to keep scores of some sort. Uh,
Yes.
Especially once a month. Every 28 days, I might just be a little bit more inclined to just want to say all the things I've done. But you mentioned something really, really key, which is we just want to feel appreciated.
Mm,
Are we willing to take on more so long as somebody notices and says thank you?
mm,
And I recently gave one of my clients who was having a really hard time with her husband. He has shift work, both incredibly busy parents, three children, I think about the ages of yours, but with the parent who's gone 12 hours at a time, sometimes overnight. So she ends up taking obviously those times, and she also works full time. She also has to come home and do all the routines. And she was keeping definitely scores, and it was making her incredibly unhappy, and her husband too, because he was feeling like not enough no matter what efforts. I gave her the task, and so she wanted to feel appreciated. This is what I have found fascinating about appreciation. I gave her the task of appreciating her husband for 66 days.
same wavelength. I'm sitting over here. Well, like she should give thanks. She
So she's like,
model what she
what?
wants.
She's like, what? But did you get what I was saying, Olga? He's the one who needs to say thank you. So then she texts me 2 weeks into this. She takes the challenge. She's like, okay, I trust you. So if you think this is going to work, she says, Olga, I've been writing sticky notes in his lunchbox. I've made lunches and I'm getting nothing. Nothing has changed. I've reflected back with her. Okay, you're just showing appreciation without any strings attached. You're just showing appreciation. It's not to manipulate a behavior, because then you're still keeping scores. Okay, I gave lunch once. You're just showing your husband you appreciate him for the things that you do. Don't fake it either. It's gotta be real. Well, it's been now 4 weeks, and she says this is incredible. Like he offered me coffee the other morning and made me coffee and brought it to the bedroom. I couldn't believe he's never done this in however many years we've been married. And she says, and I feel happy. So the feeling of appreciation is born in your heart first and foremost. So I think when we are not appreciating our partner, all we can look and see is all the lack of appreciation in the planet, period. I'm married to Leo. I don't know what sign.
Same.
Oh my God, we have more in common. Very strong personality. They like being the boss. Guess
Yes,
what?
they do.
I also like being the boss. So
I do not. I'm a Libra. I'm a double Libra. I just want
my
everyone
son
to
is
be
a Libra.
friends.
I was so happy he was a Libra. We're like, we need a Libra here. So
Yeah. I don't think I'm a good match for a Leo, but whatever.
yeah, well, I'm a Cancer, but really close to Leo. But I've learned that if I can let go of being the driver and just being the passenger who whispers to the driver what needs to happen when, and he believes that that's his idea, and I let him take credit. Ta-da! Oh, my husband cannot hear this podcast. But my problems were resolved.
Yeah.
So much is not in the arguing or trying to be right or being in control, but understanding your partner and understanding what works in your advantage to communicate with them, to make this be more a balance between chores, if that's what you're working towards, or parenting task, or whatever the case might be.
Just fewer arguments, you know?
Fewer arguments, yes.
And I think that comes back, like you made a comment earlier about how does this conversation play into like feminism and, you know, the equality of the genders and the long history. And I feel like I could hear some people listening to this and being like, well, that's not really, you know, standing up for what you need, or, you know, an equal division. And I think like taking the ownership of feeling good, asking for that support, knowing what you need and asking for it, like I think that's the perfect definition of feminism, of making changes again in our own sphere, in our own families, that then show an example to some other friends or other couples or other parents, that then ripples out to like be this broader change. And I think, I hope I'm not veering off course, but I think too about my kids. I've got 2 boys and 1 girl. Of course, I want to raise my daughter to ask for what she needs, you know, to take the time if that's what she wants, but to also be a collaborator and a teammate. How do we work together to make our home work? And I want my boys to grow up seeing that, one, a strong mom, and that household responsibilities and childcare, like it's everyone's responsibility. And it's all a give and take. And it's all about, like you said, some days you pitch in and you do something that that isn't typically yours to do. And some days you do all of one thing. And
Yeah, I
that's the
absolutely
partnership.
love that. And I think you bringing up your children, like we were five in my home. I'm one of five kids. And my mom is in practice a feminist. I think that if she was to understand the theory, she would disagree with parts of feminism like I do. But in practice, she's very much like, and I mean, she's a retired corporate lawyer. She went to law school when women were not going to law school. And she's like, I don't care. I want to be a lawyer and I will be. And she was very, very successful. She had two daughters and three boys. And in my household, everybody had to do the same. Like there was no like the girls helping the kitchen, the boys helping the garden. It was everybody doing everything. And when I think of what my parents have taught me is not 50-50. It is team effort. Who can
Mm.
do what? What are your strengths? You dive into that. Like my mom will never teach me how to ride a bicycle or rollerblade. It was completely out of her scope of what she could do. And my dad was happy to do that. So my mom passed that on to him. My dad was the one making breakfast for us because my mom is not a morning person. She will sleep in. And dad would just be the one making breakfast and writing the sticky notes with cute notes. So I think that when we can let go of these expectations we have of what marriage should look like, and often we've never even seen a marriage that works that way, but somehow we have like this expectation of
Right.
what it should look like, and we can just really embrace how we want to show up into our families versus what's
Mm.
the other person doing, and then deciding what we want to do based on one, what we want them to do, and two, what we think they need from us, or what we have this expectation of what a mom should be doing. I
Mm.
think you can show up more authentically and with a lot less guilt and shame and controlling issues
Yeah.
in the relationship.
Oh, I love that. I'm going to take that. Like, play to your strengths. Do what you're good at, what you enjoy doing. And yeah, that they're going to have to do things that you don't enjoy doing too. That's parenting. That's, maintaining a house. I remember you wrote something that I screenshotted from your Instagram a while ago. The idea, and I think it's so relevant here, to drop it, delegate it, or do it with love. And I think when you think about teamwork, when you think about the kind of household culture and example that you want to set, the energy, the vibes that you want to have in your home, like doing things and pointing fingers and keeping score, not only does it not feel good, but you're still doing you're still doing the thing, because you're not, you're like doing it and you're pissed about it.
Yeah, you're doing it angry.
And so I love that idea of doing it with love. And I think, if there are things that I'm doing in my day-to-day life that are really points of contention, and I feel like I'm constantly like, this isn't fair, then that's worth me taking a second look at. Is it necessary to be done in the first place? Can I start to get, my older kids to help out with things? Can I outsource it? Can I make it easier? Maybe it just, or if it's really important to me, I can't make someone else care about it. I want to do it with love because that's the energy I want to have in my home.
100%. So that I know exactly what you're referring to. And that's a teaching that's been passed on to me from my mom, who was passed on from her mom,
Mm.
who I've never met. But that speaks so loudly to me because my mom said this to me my entire life. So if I was doing
Mm.
something with the energy that you just described, angry, my mom would say, stop doing that. If you cannot do it with love, do not do it. You are doing a disservice to everyone around you. You
Oh,
become
wow.
intolerable, and this home becomes intolerable. So drop it. And then when I was first married, my mom would remind me of this. I'll be mad, like, can you believe I have to do this while he's golfing? And my mom would be like, do it with love. This is your home.
Yeah.
Just love that you're doing this, cleaning your floors, whatever it is that you're doing. You're caring for your home. You're not doing this because he's not, or because he's doing, like, this is your home. And if you cannot do it with love, don't do it. And I've applied this and it's wonderful. If I
Yes.
cannot, like, I don't enjoy laundry. Like you said, you enjoy it. I'm like, that's the last thing on my to-do list. I hate laundry. I have delegated this to my nanny. I just couldn't do it with love. So it's done.
Yeah.
I don't do it. I have somebody else do it. But when I have to do it and it's something that you can escape, like laundry, then I tell myself, then I'm going to do it with love. And that just changes your mindset to, I have to do this, nobody else is doing this. That's just not helpful. And I think
Mm-mm.
that concept of fairness is so tricky because it could make you be very resentful versus helpful
Mm.
when you
Yes.
tend to choose. This is to look at how this isn't fair. Like, how is that helpful moving forward? It's like asking why. Why am I here? To, in my opinion, it's
Mm.
such a waste of time. Your brain would just give you all these answers that make don't solve the problem.
Yeah. So you're constantly looking when you are thinking this isn't fair. Or like I hear this one a lot, and I've thought this, like, wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't it be nice to go golfing? Wouldn't that be nice to sleep in, on Saturday morning? I'm up with the kids. And it's true that you get into the habit, you go to that place, you're thinking about fairness, and suddenly all your mind can see is all of the things that aren't fair. And you completely have dropped the idea of doing it with love. And then guess who else sees and feels that? Your kids.
Mhm.
And then they go to school and they're like, well, so and so got that. I didn't get that. Or he got another piece of candy than me. Mom, why didn't, and it turns into
This
this whole thing. And
isn't
you're like, why are you
fair.
guys obsessed with everything being even and fair? And you're like,
Shit, I am like that. Yeah,
that's
for
me.
sure. Mhm.
Right. And I feel like that if whoever's listening, moms, parents, when I've tried all the tactics or coaching tools, I feel like when you're stuck, no, it's just not fair. The one thing that can tip a parent over the edge is, what example are you setting for your kids? Is this what you want for your kids to grow up and hate doing their chores and begrudge their spouse? And like, it does things to your marriage, to your partnership, to your relationship. And so if nothing else, think about that example.
Yeah, I would absolutely second that. And I would think, like, when did you notice you made that change in your marriage? Like, what was pivotal for you to go from keeping score to saying, this isn't helpful and it's not helping anybody. I'm not doing this with love. What was like an eye opener for you?
I remember, so I listened to and love the Life Coach School podcast with Brooke Castillo, if you know her work. And I can't remember the specific episode, but I remember her talking about relationships and owning how you feel when you show up and how you can't expect, like, you can't control another adult. You can't make them do anything. You just can't. And they don't make you feel a certain way either. When I started thinking about that and looking at all of the times, I feel like my daughter, my middle child, was young, like a newborn at the time. All the times I was waking up in the middle of the night, being angry at my husband for not waking up. All of the times when I was doing whatever I was doing around the house and feeling like it wasn't fair and I was already tired and all of those things. And I realized that it was me. Like, he wasn't making me feel this way. It was just something that had to get done. And so I could do it and just do it, or I could do it and be angry at him and feel awful. Because you said early on, like, it's exhausting. I would cling to that feeling and realize that half a day had gone by and I was just under this cloud of anger and frustration and resentment. And I'm like, I'm missing out on days of my life being angry about this. I wonder if I can learn first to just do these things with love. And then I wonder what would happen. And I feel like, I know it took time because it was an ingrained habit of, going to that place of being so resentful of him, but slowly, just recognizing it bit by bit of like, okay, I'm going to get up tonight. I know she's going to wake up, and it is what it is. It was meant to be this way. I'm not going to try to fight it, and I'm not going to be angry at him about it. I'll get back to sleep faster if I just get up and do it, come back to bed. And I feel like slowly, I started to just do things with love. And then I feel like the cloud that had been hanging over our relationship started to dissipate as well. And suddenly we were having actual conversations, collaborative, productive conversations about, this isn't working for me, or I could really use your help. It was just the simple act of trying to do things without being angry at him that opened up all of these doors. Like you said, the giving thanks, it was like just doing it with love. Suddenly everything like started to get better. And we're not perfect. I feel like we went through a slump again when we had our third child and we resorted back to some of those old habits, but we came out of them faster.
Yeah.
And now it's just like, hey, we're constantly passing the baton. And I think the biggest thing for me is being really purposeful about the type of home I want to create, the energy that I want my home to have.
Yeah, I agree. The sleepless nights and the getting up, I was even resenting my son at some point. Like,
Yeah.
why do you need me? Why can't you just like sleep the night or need your
What's
dad
wrong with
more?
you?
Yeah. And then I would feel guilt because what kind of a mother have I become that now I resent my own child who I wanted to have for 5 years? Like, this is not how I picture this. Then I had a lot of compassion with myself and I realized I had never done this before, which I
Yeah.
think is something that, especially new parents, but it doesn't matter. You said you went through it on your with your third child again. It's a new scenario. You've never had three children before. So
Yes.
like we just gotta remember we've never done this before and have all of that compassion to
Yeah.
not fall for that guilt and that fear of like, oh, now things are just gonna go down a path that we can never come back from, and show up with that love. I think that for me, the teaching of my mom, like I see my mom as one of the strongest women I know and capable of so much. My mom does everything well done. Like you rarely meet people who are so talented in so many ways. Like she, being an incredibly busy professional, having five children, she would handmade, like sew all my costumes for Halloween and for my Barbie.
Wow.
For my Barbies, like all of my Barbies had dresses made by my mom. She enjoyed that so much. To this date, she has like little figurines in her kitchen that she crochets sweaters for. Like,
A
how did
woman
she?
after my own heart. I feel like we get along really
Yes,
well.
yeah, super crafty, super artistic, incredibly logical, incredibly intelligent. She A plus anything she gets to do. Okay, so I think of my mom as like that incredibly powerful woman and the most loving human who would do anything, like from cleaning the floors to cleaning the kitchen to changing a diaper to anything that she has to do while singing, while smiling. Like I've never
Mm.
seen my mom doing something angry or like with regret or I don't know, whatever my mom is doing, she's full on, I would say mindfully doing it and enjoying it. So when I think of power, a powerful woman, a capable
Mm.
woman does not equal a woman who's keeping tally with her husband,
Mm.
a woman who is exactly giving 50%. I think my mom, on top of raising all five of us with the time that she had, she also made more money than my dad. But she did most of the caregiving. And not once did she feel that that was not her advantage. Like she felt so
Mm-hmm.
lucky that she got to be that mom, that she got
Yeah.
to spend that. And so when I think of who do I need to call, whose energy do I need to call into my life, I often think of my mom. And that's something that has helped me hugely. In case you're listening and you know of somebody who kind of embraces doing things with love, call upon that energy and say like,
Yeah.
how can I then do this? What would love do here? That's what I ask myself. What would love do
Mm.
here? Sometimes love will drop it. Sometimes love will like ask for help, and sometimes love would just be like, oh yeah, this is actually amazing, you have a baby to feed, isn't that incredible? Like, and you just
Mm.
jump into that same experience with a complete different mindset that helps you
Yeah.
land in it differently.
I remember too, like I think another like big aha moment for me was, I think of someone like your mom. I bet so many people listening go to the same place where you think, I'm just not like that. Like it's a fact, right? That she's special. There's something different about her. She was born with this like happy gene. And I used to be that person. Like I thought this was just who I am, like kind of glass half empty, marriage just okay, parenting just like I'm surviving it. Until I realized like there's nothing special about your mom or that type. Not that she's not special, I'm sure she's amazing, but there's nothing that she has that isn't available to me. And I just like, you just have to decide. I want to be that kind of mom. I want to have that kind of juicy, sexy marriage. I want to have that kind of home that just feels relaxed and light. And then,
100%.
yeah, then you just have to, like you said, call upon that example of that woman who you see as being really mindful and joyful about all of the mundane things that we have to do as parents. That's your choice. There's nothing different about you. You can have it too.
And that's a great point. Like, I think my first marriage, I was trying so desperately to be exactly like my mom. So I was failing at everything. I am not my mom. I will never be my mom. Like that level of exactitude with which she folds like fitted sheets. Mine look like I just made a little ball. My mom's closet looks, oh my God, like you could go in a magazine perfectly. Like I think she irons everything that, I don't
Oh
know if she found
no.
the time to iron. She's been ironing all my life. I love what you just said because it's so easy to look at somebody and want to be them, not recognizing I've got a lot of my dad in me. He would not be folding anything properly, nor would he care to do that. Like what the closet looks like does not concern my dad whatsoever. So in that comparison, at first I wasn't using my mom as a good example. I was using her for me to feel like not enough. Or like
Yes.
you were saying, like she must be some incredible, she's an incredible human, but she must be so God-given powers that I don't have. Well, I was coming to a place of not enoughness and actually adding a lot of stress into my life. When my mom was visiting, I would get into an argument with my husband for sure because I was like, there can be no dust. Like I just had these expectations to just be like her versus just be me. What I would say also to the person listening and thinking like she must be extraordinary. She's ordinary like everybody else. She is using her strengths to her advantage.
Mm.
And what I would say is like my mom is confident in what she's good at. Like she doesn't let that be, oh, your dad is not doing that. So I wonder if he wants me. She just does the things that make her happy without considering whether or not my dad would like that or we would like that. She just does the thing that makes her happy. She takes full on ownership of that. And I think that that's the message here. Find the people that inspire you
Mm.
to land more authentically in who you are
Mm.
and who model for you the kind of energy, and you're doing this as a mom, the kind of mom that you want to be. We are the policy makers of our life. We get to
Mm.
rewrite the policies. If your current policies are not working for you, guess
Right.
what? This is the one place where you actually get to rewrite those policies and say, keeping score is useless and it's ruining my marriage. So
Yeah.
I will not.
You don't have to go on this, like, have this big agenda and go to your husband, like, we need to change. You can just change it. Like, you're the one keeping score. It's going on with you. You're the one that feels bad about it or feels angry. Like, you just get to change it. It can be that simple as recognizing the next time you do it and reminding yourself that there's another option. Maybe you want to just do it with love.
Oh, and what you said also is helpful because I think so often well, at least my clients feel this way, and I know I used to feel that way. If I'm going to be doing this, he also has to do it, right? It's like, again, you're not going back to the your work. You said something earlier where you realized it was you who was having the big emotion,
Mm.
and so it was you who had the frustration and the glooming cloud on top of your life or your days. My rule, and I coach women through this, is if you're the person with the big emotion, you're the person with the problem, you are the person with the solution. So rather than looking at the other person who's not bothered
Yeah.
at all by the mess, let's say, just ask yourself, crap, I am the one with the big emotion. I'm the one with the problem. This is the part that I love. I have the solution. So this is in your hands to resolve. And I think it's worth your time to think about how can I resolve that, landing into your power versus like
Mm.
continuously wanting your partner to fix things for you. Because
Yes.
they cannot do the work that only you can do. So I think that's definitely key. So when did you decide to become this coach? So you went from doing this change and like your relationship change, and then you were like, okay, somebody has to teach this to women.
Yeah. Yeah, I started out, I think, as someone who had figured out great planning systems and how to manage your to-do list and all of the like tactical pieces of getting all of this stuff done. I started out, offering new moms who were just going back to work help with getting all the things done. And I think it was around the time when my daughter was born. So she's 4 now, a little over 4. And I realized those tools, while insanely important, and I think that especially new moms, but any working mom could use that it's so much more. Like that only gets you so far. So that's where my one-on-one coaching was born. It's about, yes, putting the systems and the routines and, the tools, the planning tools in place that allow you to manage professional career, business, whatever it is that you are working toward, but also be a really present and calm which is a word that a lot of my clients use, calm mom, and create this enjoyable life and find time for other things instead of just daily life maintenance, parenting, and work, that you get to have an amazing relationship and time for yourself and interests and things outside of those two roles. So yeah.
So I'm curious because, like, for me, for example, I was just talking about my mom and how much of a model she is for me. She also working singly hours. My mom had never mastered the balance between work and life at home
Yeah.
balance. She had to work. She had 5 kids, and like this is in Colombia, like your employment owns you essentially. You gotta provide. And she always had really high, like she was the head of the legal department of really big corporations before she opened her own firm. And then it was even worse because she had to supply so much support to so many big corporations. She would come home at midnight during the weekdays. As a result, she missed a lot of my life. For example, I was a kid whose parents never went to the end of year show. And I am an empath. That meant the world to me. That they were not there, I was sad. Since I met my husband, it became my main goal to not do that, because my mom has said to me, the only regret I have in my life is not having spent more time with you guys while you were growing up. I don't think she had a choice. Like, she had to work. She had 5 kids. Private education, private healthcare system, like, yeah, you're in the States, same thing. For the Canadians, these are expenses we don't normally have here. I remember thinking to myself, I mean, I became independent. Like, I had my office, my private practice 5 years before Mateo was born. Took me 5 years, but my whole mindset was planning a lifestyle that would allow me to have the balance that I enjoy today. So I have a bit of a different experience as a working mom, because I get to choose how many hours I work, and I'm working 20 hours, 25 maximum, to primarily take care of Mateo. That's been my plan and has been for a very long time. So I don't struggle as much, I feel, as a full-time working mom. So I'm curious for you, like, what has been the most challenging aspect of being a working mom and balancing that? And what advice would you have to anybody listening who is working full-time? To me, working full-time hours are like part-time to most people. So what has been the biggest challenge and the biggest lesson that has allowed you to just balance this out and find like that happiness and not that guilt of like, I should be more present here, but my work needs me more?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, that's a loaded question. I feel like for me, there's this pressure because your time with your kids is condensed. For me, it's 5 o'clock. My kids are in daycare/school, 8 to 5, roughly 8:30 to 5. So there's this condensed amount of time that I get to be with them. So 5 o'clock to bedtime, and then we've got the weekends. And so there's this pressure to make the most of it, to really be present and enjoy it all, which, I mean, any parent of young kids knows that, 5 to bedtime is not exactly the best hours of the day for like enjoyable time with your kids. So you're stuck with that too. And that's also your prime time to, weekends especially, take care of all the things that make your household run, picking up and laundry and grocery store and meal prepping and getting dinners on the table and all of that. So there's like so much packed into those hours, and they are just, there's guilt for when you're snapping at your kids and you're not being present with them. There's distractions, work email, all of that. There's this kind of frantic energy to get all of these things done. And I think that's the hardest part, and has been the hardest part for me, especially, with my first and my second. How do I use that time? What do I want out of that time? And I think with my first, I had postpartum depression after he was born. And I was, again, like very driven and all of these things that I wanted to do. And I spent so much of my time when I had him outside of work, like doing things, just doing. And I know I missed out on some connection time with him. And I look at the difference between when he was born, he's 6.5, to when my 2-year-old was born. And I just learned, for one, I got rid of a lot of things. I outsourced some things. Like I went a little bit more toward minimalist in terms of our home life and how things function, which just made it easier. But I also just like, I spent my maternity leave just laying around with my baby. Yes, some evenings are really stressful and there's a lot to do, but I see it as a choice that like I can do these chores and be so focused on them and stressed and anxious about getting them done, or I can just kind of do them as best I can, like with my kids, while paying attention to them, while bringing them along with me to do these things. That like everyday life can be fun and enjoyable for all of us. It doesn't have to be like, we don't have to have all these destinations for fun and to be a present and fun mom. Like I just get to do that in my everyday life while getting the bare minimum of everything else in my life done. And then I've streamlined and simplified the shit out of the rest of my life.
Right. I love it. And like, it sounds like you also let go of this perfectionist mindset, right? Like things have to be perfect. Like it has to be
Yes.
done by Wednesdays. And, like, I think that for me, that's been super helpful in just parenting. Like, thank God. Okay, this sounds odd, but the 5 years that I was waiting for my son really, really challenged the perfectionist in me that had
Yeah.
perfect timelines and by when I
Yeah.
was going to become a mom. And so it challenged it so much that I now stand against any perfectionist anything because I just doesn't agree with the happy
Yeah.
life that I rather have. So I think that's helpful. The other thing I wanted to bring up because I heard you say this in one of our coaching calls with our coach that we have in common was that you don't necessarily carry the belief that you can do it all or have it all. You actually get to prioritize what's really important right now. And I think that that must be also a great mindset for the really busy mom who's working full time, who's got a million things on the go.
Yes, I think you can have it all. You can do it all. I feel like the slogan of feminism in the 70s, 80s, whenever. But yeah, I think that sets us all up with this expectation that there's something wrong with you if you aren't having the beautiful morning routine and getting your exercise in and, going on date nights with your husband and playing games with your kids and meals and birthday parties and all of these things that like I don't think you can do it all. I just talked about like the limited time when you're working full time that you get with your kids. Yeah, you have to make some choices, and that I go through a process every quarter where I think about, okay, there are all of these areas of my life that I'm, a self-development junkie. I want to grow and be better, but I can't do all of those things and maintain my relationships and work on these projects around the house and grow my business. And so just for this season, what do I want to say no to? And so I was sharing with you guys that, for January, February, and March, I gave up working out. I would do it occasionally as I felt like really called to move my body, but it wasn't like a goal, every morning at 6 a.m. like you have. And I find that so inspirational. I'm going to get up and work out. And what I'm noticing is as we're heading into the next quarter in spring is I'm craving that. I miss it. So I'm going to reevaluate and what's going to go to the back burner while I bring working out and moving my body back as a priority. And my marriage, I want to work on that this next quarter. So I'm going to let some other things slide for a little bit, and it's not forever, but yeah, I think the sooner we all make some of those choices that feel hard and finite and definite, they're just for now, and
Yeah.
stop expecting yourself to be able to do it all and say, okay, if I want this, great. I'm glad that you're excited about doing this. Now, what are you going to let go of?
We get so caught up on all the things we want to do and we try to work on all of them at once, failing at all of them, and then having like this huge self-esteem issue because we're like, God, I am not a success at all. And I do love what I'm gathering from this is just giving ourselves permission to choose what's a priority and what we need. I was talking to a whole group of Beachbody coaches the other day, and I realized that maybe my approach is not what they preach or want. But I was telling them I no longer feel obligated to do anything that my body that morning doesn't feel like doing. So I have given myself full permission to ask and say, hey, if we're moving today, how are we moving? What feels good for you? This morning I did not move whatsoever. My body is about to enter my cycle and is telling me like, no, we're not moving. And there is zero guilt when you can actually
Yeah.
give yourself the permission to just examine what matters to you and how little or how much you want to stick to or to commit to that one thing. I think that it brings you back to being human and to fluctuate as your emotions would and as life does. So
Yes.
for the busy mom who's listening to this, who's also married and is trying to work all things up, I know that in your heart, you have the best of intentions to grow your marriage, to be stronger, to be an incredible mom. First and foremost, I want you to know that you already are. Like just having the intention to want to be those things already makes you that good partner, good mom, good human. Just rest assured on that for a moment that you are already doing a good job. That your struggles, you're talking to you're listening to two coaches who are saying like, "Hey, this is still a struggle for us." And I like to see it as never ending work, things that I'm always going to be evolving and working versus expecting that I already mastered this. Balance is such a variable, right? Like, what is balance today for you? But checking in with yourself and seeing what is feeling heavy and getting yourself the supports that you need, normalizing life is probably what's going to help you most. I really hope from the bottom of my heart that this was a helpful podcast. Kaylin, I'm so grateful to you for coming to share your wisdom. And I hope that busy working moms get to hear you and say, I want to work with Caitlin. She sounds like the kind of human that I want to be surrounding myself with, which I would second in a heartbeat. I think that you're an incredible human, and I'm so happy that you saw the gap and you decided to step in and be a leader in the space that we need.
Thank you.
To show us the way.
Thank you. This was so much fun. I will talk all day with you, Olga.
Same. Yeah, we have other subjects we can come back to.
Yes.
But for those listening, do not keep scores. They are not helpful. Don't let your mind trap you into this keeping of scores.
Break the habit.
But if you are keeping scores, just ask yourself, is it helping? And also build that receiving end. How would you like if your husband had a score sheet that he would pull out? Maybe you do have that husband. And he's like, on March 22nd, I list all the things he did. What did you do? Personally, I know I'll tell him to go for a walk, and not in a nice way. So yeah, let's not be controlling. Let's be loving, and let's own being the heart of our homes, because that's what we are. We can model love all we want. That's what moms do. Most moms. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you guys next Monday.